end. All right, next up now, we're going to go, how about a little something about football? How about we go into the upbeat portion of this podcast and we talk a little bit about college football and NFL football. And we'll start with college football. I love that map with all the teams on it. First game is the number one team in the country, according to the college football poll. College football playoff poll, I should say, and that's the University of Georgia Bulldogs, who handled South Carolina pretty easily. They won 24-20 in Athens, showed the defense, showed the running. Jake Fromm actually threw a couple of spot-on passes. So this right now is your top-ranked team in the country. Are they the best team in the country? Not necessarily. I happen to believe still that Alabama is the best team in the country, but I don't have a vote in the college football playoff poll. Number two score was a game that was, again, unbelievable to watch, much like the Penn State-Ohio State the week before. Michigan State handed Penn State another loss, getting that win late on a field goal. And I will point something out real quick here. Penn State lost, but if you look up James Franklin post-game handshake, he actually ran down some of his players after the game that were running off the field and not going to shake hands with Michigan State. Class move by James Franklin, and it's worth mentioning because we need more reminders like this of the right way to do things from college football coaches instead of, I guess, the current situation in many cases where they'd show their butt as often as not. Next game up, Clemson and North Carolina State. This is a game I had personally picked as being an upset. I thought Clemson was going to go to North Carolina State and get handed a loss. The running of Kelly Bryant was the difference. When they needed it to be, the defense played good enough to stop NC State. Finley, their quarterback, had a decent game, but overall, Clemson was just a little too much for North Carolina State. And with their one loss, Clemson stays right there in the conversation as far as the playoff goes. The next game is the game they just refer to by one name, Bedlam, and that's Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. 62-52. That wasn't college basketball. That was college football. And I will insert here, congratulations to Baker Mayfield, who had a great game, okay? Let that rest. But in my top four, last week I had Oklahoma in there. This week, to me, the top four are going to be UGA, Bama, Notre Dame, and Wisconsin, who's still undefeated. Can't put a team that can't play defense, at least some semblance of defense, in this top four for a playoff spot. Just can't do it. Don't want to see games 62-52 in the playoffs. I know it's great for ratings, but it's absolute dog doo-doo football. There's no defense. All right, next up, Arizona and USC. USC, good job bouncing back since their tail whipping by Notre Dame on national television, and they hand Arizona a 21-15 loss. Khalil Tate, the quarterback for Arizona, by the way, in that game, became the first Pac-12 quarterback to ever rush for over 1,000 yards. And Arizona had their chances, and my guy Rich Rodriguez, the head coach at Arizona, almost pulled this off. But Trojans win, and that gives them the driver's seat as far as the Pac-12 South goes. Next up on the list is the aforementioned Wisconsin, who played Indiana and beat Indiana. It was tight early, but then Wisconsin walked away. And they did what an undefeated team should do, and that's pull away from an inferior opponent. And I give them no minus points for that. Everybody wants to talk about their schedule. They're still undefeated. The idea is to win all your games, okay? Are they impressive? No, but they are undefeated. Next up, Virginia Tech and Miami. Speaking of undefeated, Mark Richt. How nice is this to see Mark Richt having this kind of success? And in this game against a Va Tech team that people really thought were the much better team and that Miami was an aberration, well, a little of that Miami D came back. It's not all about the chain, the gold chain and the medallion nowadays. It's legitimate. It really is real. They've got some pretty good defense. Offense, good enough. It really is. And congratulations to Mark Richt and congratulations to the Hurricanes, because as of right now, the U is back and college football is a better place for it. All right, let's move it over to the other side, to our good friends at the NFL. I will mention here before we get any scores up, you guys watch it. You see the games. Man, officiating is weak. It's not very good. They're hesitant. That's all you can say about it. I know they have options personnel-wise much better than this. I know there's got to be better solutions officiating-wise because this game deserves to be officiated better. But you're sure as hell not seeing that now on the field and on the TV screens around America. First score is the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. And this game ended, well, unlike with the games last year that Atlanta had the chance late and they always closed the deal, this year finishing, kind of like finishing since that fourth quarter or end of the third quarter and fourth quarter in the Super Bowl, not the strong point of this team. And they can go into denial as much as they want. This rot, and this is rot, has its basis in that game where in front of the whole country down in Houston, they blew a Super Bowl and a chance to be a world champion. It has a hangover. It has an effect, and you're still seeing it, especially late in the games, where they just, as they said in Major League 2, they have no eggs. Just no eggs. Zero. All right, let's go to the next game, and that would be the Texans and the Colts. The Texans lost their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, in practice, and you know what? They played okay, but the other team had Jacoby Brissett, who was in for Andrew Luck now. That looks like he'll be out for maybe forever as a Colt. And the Colts did just enough to win that game. And they put another loss on the Houston Texans and further kind of muddy the AFC South, which right now is ruled, at least for this week, by the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I'll talk about here in a little bit. Next score is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. A lot of posing, a lot of scuffles, a lot of various things went on. The number one thing that happened yesterday, hey, the Saints wore the Buccaneers' asses out. Wore them out. Drew Brees and company is now 6-2, and Tampa next to Atlanta is one of the biggest disappointments in the league. Again. All right? That's it. Good job, New Orleans, by the way. Next up on the list is simply the best team in the NFL right now. Sounds strange to say that, but it is the Philadelphia Eagles. Only one loss so far for the Eagles. They put 51. My old number, I wore that number. I like that number. You don't ever see that in an NFL game. 51 points on what people were saying at the beginning of the year is one of the best defenses in the NFL. Well, not anymore. The Denver Broncos got that butt whipped, and they got that butt whipped bad. Carson Wentz and his whole crew did a very, very nice job. Philadelphia, what can you say? Doug Peterson and company are right now outclassing everybody else in the NFL. Fun to see. And despite the injuries they've had, they just keep on going and haven't really missed a beat. Next up on the score side is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs played the better part of a game where it looked like they were going to win. But Dak Prescott stood up and wouldn't let his team lose the game. Ezekiel Elliott is still available for the Cowboys. Many of us would say, is he ever going to serve this suspension? I know he's willing to settle kind of out of court on this suspension and make some kind of a deal. But the NFL is doing what they normally do in these cases, and they're being very stubborn. And that's not working out well for the NFL in a lot of ways. But, you know, that's them. They know better than all of us. Next up, the Bengals and the Jaguars. Cincinnati Bengals, a team that was part of a screwed-up trade for their backup quarterback, A.J. McCarron, to the Cleveland Browns. That got screwed up. End of the week, this got screwed up. They couldn't beat the Jaguars with their rookie running back, Leonard Fournette, suspended from the game for breaking team rules. Now, they weren't real specific. Fournette wasn't there. Didn't matter. Jaguars still win. Blake Bortles plays a good game, and he wins the game. Interesting little sideline encounter between Doug Marrone, the head coach of the Jaguars, and Blake Bortles. You might want to look that up online. I'm sure on YouTube it's up there. May not be on any NFL-affiliated website because they don't like to encourage looking at that. But this is an interesting encounter between a quarterback and his head coach when they're ahead 23-7 as he's coming off the field. That'll do it